Good morning, everybody. Sheriff Mendoza. Today's Thursday, February 20th, 2025. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Santa Fe Regional Emergency Communication Center Board of Directors meeting. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Sheriff Mendoza,
Present.
Chief Jimenez. He's here, but he's just muted. Chief Joy,
Present.
Chief Moya,
Present.
Chief Black.
Here.
Manager Schaefer,
Here.
Member Wheeler,
Here.
and Manager Scott is absent. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, Chief, we can
Okay.
hear you now.
I apologize. I'm here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 1C, approval of agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
Move for approval. I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Everybody in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? The agenda is approved for today's meeting. Item number 2, approval of meeting minutes. This is an action item. Request approval of December 19th, 2024 Santa Fe RECC Board of Directors meeting minutes. Does anybody need a few minutes to review the minutes, or I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion for approval, a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none. The motion to approve passes. We'll move on to item number 3, matters of public comment. Director, do we have anybody? Doesn't look like there's anyone here present. Do we have anybody online for public comment? Just double checking the online here. We see anybody?
I don't believe so.
Is there anybody online that is here for public comment? I don't see any hands raised online. I'm assuming that there isn't. Okay. Moving on to item number 4, consent agenda action items. There are no items in number 4. So we'll move on to item number 5, action items. A, selection of proposed calendar year 2025 RECC board meeting schedule. Director.
All right, we're going to bring up the schedule. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the last meeting, we were discussing if we wanted to have the 2-month schedule or the 3-month schedule. They both meet the requirements for the JPA, and so today we need to select which meeting schedule we'd like to go with.
Thank you, Director. I think in the last meeting, we had discussed both of the options. We had asked the director to put together both options for the board to consider. Does anybody have any discussion in reference to the 2 schedules? Any concern or recommendations? Any preference?
You think we need to review? Mr. Chair, personally, I would be in favor of the bi-monthly meeting schedule. I think it allows us to, as a board, to be closer to the operations of the RECC, but also if for some reason, as we get up on a meeting, it appears as if we don't need it, it can always be canceled, but this way at least we have them on the schedule. That would be my personal preference, but I'd like to hear from other board members.
Any other discussion about the 2 proposed schedules? Any preference?
Mr. Chair,
Chief?
yeah, I'd like to echo County Manager Schaefer's idea. I think we're better off having them and not needing them than not having them. So,
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or preferences?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve for the 2-month schedule.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bi-monthly meetings, which is I think it's an 8-hour annual schedule. That's the one on the top here in the slide. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, we'll go ahead and adopt the bi-monthly meeting schedule for 2025. Any further discussion about the schedule? No? All right, we'll move on to action items B, appointment of technology subcommittee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last meeting, we did discuss the composition of the subcommittee, and I did change it to reflect the requests of the composition. So I believe at this point, we need to appoint members that are not in the list already. I did speak to the interim city manager at the time, Randy Randall, who advised that Eric Candelaria would be serving as the city's technology staff representative. And Mr. Candelaria did send me an email and confirm that that was the case. So that leaves the remaining law enforcement representative, fire representative, and IT representative from Edgewood, I believe would be James Reeder, but Chief Jimenez can confirm that for us. Also, we need to confirm an RECC board member. Thank you.
Okay. So we're looking for, I'm assuming, specific names for this committee. And which were the two that we were lacking?
We are lacking the law enforcement representative, number 5, number 6, fire department, and number 7, I believe is going to be the director, James Reeder, for Edgewood IT, but Chief Jimenez will need to confirm that, and then the RECC board. Great.
Okay, let's start with number 5. Law enforcement representative from county, city, or town of Edgewood. Is that just one individual? I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, no, I mean, we do have on our side an administrative lieutenant, Lieutenant McCord, we could put forth for us if no one else has somebody that could help with this project.
Chief Jimenez, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that'll work for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And then Chief, I'd agree to that. I know Lieutenant McCord. I know he's pretty technological savvy, so I wouldn't mind. Okay, right on. We have that, Director?
Yes, sir.
We'll move on to number 6. Should we have a vote on each?
Perhaps, yes, I think that would be a good idea, Mr. Chair. Perhaps have a vote on each name
Each
for each of
appointment?
these, for each of these appointments.
Okay, so in reference to action item, appointment of technology subcommittee members, number 5, law enforcement representative from county, city, or town of Edgewood. I'd entertain a motion to appoint Lieutenant McCord from Santa Fe Police Department to the committee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to number 6 for discussion. Fire department representative from city or county.
Mr. Chair, I do have Battalion Chief Nestor Garcia has expressed interest on serving on this committee. He is our battalion chief over our training division, routinely works with technologies, and is willing to support RECC in whatever manner possible from our side. And so with that, county does have an individual. I will defer also to Chief Moya to see if there's anyone in the city fire department that he has that might be interested in discussion.
Thank you, Chief.
Was that a motion, sir? I could second it.
No, that, Chief Moya, do you have any concerns or do you have a recommendation of your own?
No, I think, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think Chief Black is fine. We have a city representative in police, so I think a county representative in fire would be fine.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint Battalion Chief Master Garcia to the technology subcommittee for RECC.
thank you, Chief.
I'll second it, sir.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and appoint Nestor Garcia on the subcommittee. Moving on to number 7 for discussion. IT representative from town of Edgewood. Chief?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. And thank you, Director Lujan, for putting this together. I did speak to our IT director, James Reeder. He said he would be willing and able to be a part of this subcommittee. So I'd like to make a motion, if we could, to put Director James Reeder.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and appoint Director James Reeder to the subcommittee. Moving on to number 8, RECC board member, Director.
So I'm not sure exactly how this would work, but a member of the RECC board would need to serve on the committee. I just don't. I mean, I don't have a recommendation. I'm happy with anyone who's willing to participate.
Do we have any volunteers or recommendations?
Recommend we squeeze more free labor out of our at-large member.
I second that.
From my perspective, at least I'm bringing the public's perspective to the committee, so I don't have a problem serving on it.
No, and I that was a joke. I think you would be a fine representative. I would also be happy to do it. But again, I was joking, but I think you would be fine. And I think that brings a perspective that would be unique to everybody else's that's already. So if you're willing to serve, I would make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to appoint Eric Wheeler to the subcommittee?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Mr. Wheeler, you are appointed to the technology subcommittee. I think that covers all the names and vacancies on the subcommittee. We'll go ahead and move on to action item C, approval of recommended RECC FY26 budget and contributions. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll read the memo that was in the packet. So per Article 2, Section C5 of the RECC Joint Powers Agreement, the Board of Directors shall periodically review revenue and expenses of the RECC and shall propose to the county an annual operating budget of the operation of the RECC, which shall be submitted for approval to the county prior to March 1st of each year. Summary, Section 2, Article 2, C6 of the RECC Joint Powers Agreement states that the Board of Directors shall review and approve any proposed capital expenditure for the RECC on an annual basis, which shall be submitted to the city, the town of Edgewood, and the county prior to March 1st of each year as a supplement to the proposed annual operating budget. Capital expenditures are assets over $5,000 for each item, including delivery, installation, and other related costs of equipment, machinery, or vehicles with a life of longer than 1 year. The RECC's proposed operating budget, reoccurring operational expenditures, non-recurring operational expenditures, fixed assets, and capital expenditures relies upon revenue from contributions as stated in the RECC Joint Powers Agreement for the Department of Finance Administration. We also receive an enhanced 911 grant and county contributions relative to supporting day-to-day operations and salaries and benefits. While these figures have been estimated for purposes of preparing the county's fiscal year 2026 budget, we will not have a final estimated ending cash balance until the county's fourth quarter report, which is approved in July, and will not have actual unaudited figures until September. So attached below this for your approval are the RECC fund summary, revenue, and capital requests for fiscal year 2026 and budget line item detail. You will see the fund summary, which is revenue that includes the annual Joint Powers Agreement contributions to include capital reimbursements from FY24, renewal of existing services such as One Solution, the RAVE SMS to opt-in, and the state of New Mexico Department of Finance Administration reimbursement for training and minor equipment for a total of $7,530,092. Capital requests costs to be shared by the City of Santa Fe, Town of Edgewood, and Santa Fe County include Rapid SOS Unite and Motorola System Upgrade Agreement. Edgewood has reached their maximum annual capital contributions at this point in the request, as stated in Article 4, Section B2 of the JPA. Capital requests and costs to be shared by the city and county include a primary CAD server, the request for Motorola MCC 7500E server and laptops, and also a vehicle for RECC. Capital request costs requested solely to Santa Fe County include dispatch chairs, dispatch computers, and a parking lot. The total requested capital contributions for the city of Santa Fe total $1,185,383. Total requested capital contributions for the town of Edgewood total $20,000, and total capital contributions for Santa Fe County equal $1,492,733. The grand total for requested capital items is $2,698,115. The RECC's proposed FY26 budget totals $7,537,092. The recommended action is to approve the proposed FY26 budget as recommended for the Board of County Commission approval. And again, the attachments will be the fund summary, the revenue capital, the budget detail, and line item requests. So this is the fund summary. I don't know if you want me to go through each item, Mr. Chair.
What's the pleasure of the board? Would everybody like the director to go through each item and explain it? Has it been reviewed? Manager?
Yeah, I think it would, thank you, Mr. Chair, be useful if the director could perhaps just spend a little bit of time talking about the major capital purchases, just to put them in context, relative to needs of the center and the impact they'll have on center operations, even if it's just to replace obsolescent equipment. I think that would be useful.
Thank you, Manager. Director?
Yes, sir. So the second chart here is the capital requests. We have dispatch chairs, which would be encumbered by the county for a total of 13 chairs at $1,670.13 per chair. Current chairs were provided by the designer of the RECC and the office furniture for the individual administrative office, but the chairs are not 24-hour rated dispatch chairs, and the staff are advising that they would like a 24-hour rated dispatch chair to sit in. The dispatch computers would be the ones that run the CAD, any web applications, any training that they need to do at their desk. Those computers that we have right now are a bit slower. They have less memory, so they do run a little bit slower than they should be. And so it would be a request to purchase a more boosted computer that can run those applications quicker. The primary CAD server is the server that lives in the RECC IT room. It was not replaced when we did the disaster recovery server, so it does not meet the exact specifications of the DR server. And so it's causing minor hiccups between the two servers when they do have to flip back and forth to fail over to each other. So we do need to make sure that we match that server and that it's prepared to handle any additional information that we're adding to it as the number of calls grow each year and the information grows each year that as we take calls. The Motorola MCC 7500E server laptops are 6 laptops that would actually give us the capability to dispatch remotely, such as at Zobra, at Santuario, at any event that we needed to dispatch out of a command vehicle or another office. It's called the Outside Radio Network Infrastructure laptop, and it would give us that capability to communicate with all the agencies that we dispatch for, basically no matter where we are, as long as we have an internet connection. So it creates a redundancy for the radios as well. The vehicle, we do have 2 older Chevy Malibus right now in our fleet. We would be, I guess, surplusing the oldest one, which has hit 87,000 miles and has also unfortunately broken down on us several times over the past year. And we also were looking to get a larger vehicle, such as an SUV, in the instance that we did need to transport our redundant equipment, such as our laptops and our Vespa command post. I don't think there's one in here, but they're fairly large Pelican cases. They would not fit, we would not be able to fit those and staff members in the vehicle if we had to evacuate the center. So we're looking to upgrade to an SUV for that purpose. The parking lot, I'm not sure if anybody parked in the roundabout today, but as you could see, it was very full. We don't have a secure gated parking area besides the one back here, which is pretty much occupied, obviously, by the people that work in that building. So we would like our own standalone gated parking lot here at RECC. It would ensure the safety of our staff as well. We did have, we have not more than once we've had inmates walk through the roundabout. We did have one that pulled on a car door and got it open and stole some items. So we would like a secured area for our staff to park in that's closer to the building. Rapid SOS Unite, I'm pretty excited about. I did have a summary of what it does, so I can absolutely try to miss anything. So we currently have Rapid SOS, which is a free service that allows us to communicate to callers through chats if we needed to. It provides accurate GPS location, more accurate than the current 911 system, because it uses the same technology that would be used in your Uber or Lyft ride request. And you know, I'm sure you all know that Uber can find exactly where you're standing. So when a caller is unable to talk to us, we utilize that program to identify where they're at, and it also notifies us of incoming 911 calls, even if our phones are down, because it uses a different technology to identify where the call is coming from. So we'll actually get a notification that the 911 are ringing when the phones are down, and even before the 911 rings, it sends us a notification on their application to let us know there's a call coming in, so we're prepared to answer the phone. That's the free service that we currently have. What Rapid SOS Unite would provide is advanced communication tools such as AI language translation for text and voice 911 calls, live transcription of calls with keyword alerting to notify supervisors of calls that may require an immediate response. So that means that if the sheriff's office or police department or fire department would like to be notified of specific calls that involve the word weapon or psychiatric, you would receive that notification directly to your phone, saying there's a call coming in involving a firearm, gun, whatever keywords we pick, we can put those in for you and you get notified immediately. It also has multimedia capabilities, which can be blurred for dispatch, but sent directly to the responders as well. So for example, if there was a structure fire or a wildland fire, the fire department could get a scene sized up before they even arrive on scene and understand what's going on, be able to send the appropriate staff or it's too late. That can be done for law enforcement as well. We would be able to send video of incidents to the whatever responders you choose. Live updates on responder location status and chat tools. Although some of these features exist currently for responders in our current CAT system, this program has a more robust platform, which would also serve as redundancy and assurance in the event of a CAT outage for 911 phone outages, as witnessed with our relocation when our 911 lines were down here in Santa Fe. We still had Rapid SOS open and we could see what calls were coming in and being sent to Sandoval County, just in case there was an error or a missed call on the Sandoval County side. Our staff that were there, we were able to catch that and call those people back immediately. Rapid SOS will also notify RECC of incoming phone calls, as I said before, the phone actually rings in the center. So we will be able to see, and we've seen it now, when there's a large accident or a large fire, where everybody's calling from on those calls, and we can identify those as duplicate calls. We can get to them, but we can also see that there might be 10 calls at one location for a structure fire, but now there's another one downtown because we're getting a ping on that rapid SOS map of a call going on over there. So we're able to distinguish and delineate which calls belong to what jurisdiction. So Unite will also provide AI call taking for alarm calls. Alarm companies would call a specific number at RECC that is answered by AI and fully process alarm calls and enter them into the CAD system automatically, saving our human call takers time and allowing them to focus on 911 emergency calls and radio traffic. The AI tool could also be used potentially to answer other non-emergency low priority calls, such as burn permits. As Chief Black knows, we get a lot of burn permit calls over the weekend that consume a lot of the call takers' time. It is a possibility for us to utilize AI in that format for burn permit calls. CAD calls can be created and shared with other agencies as needed. For example, if we're receiving a reckless driver leaving Santa Fe County and entering another jurisdiction, or vehicle pursuits and calls that are also misrouted to our center that belong to another jurisdiction, with the Unite platform, we could create those calls in Unite and then send them to any other agency that uses Rapid SOS, which I believe all of our neighboring counties use Rapid SOS. We would be able to send those calls to them without having to pick up the phone and even dial a number. So it's pretty amazing. We would also be able to serve as a backup to multiple agencies. Should any neighboring agency become displaced, we would be able to support their staff and calls for service by geofencing their jurisdiction to ensure that Rapid SOS routes the calls to the Santa Fe RECC. The staff from that other agency could utilize our Unite platform to process their jurisdiction's calls without having to understand our CAD system, because some of the neighboring agencies use different systems. They wouldn't be familiar with it, but Rapid SOS, they would be able to actually process and dispatch the calls using that system and serve as a backup to them. The system would house our CAD map data and jurisdictional information, as well as help us track responder locations and ultimately enhance our ability to appropriately respond to the call volume within our center, while providing responders real-time information such as video or the transcription of calls. So the program will also listen to the 911 calls and transcribe them live. We would be able to paste those notes into CAD, copy and paste them into CAD, or just send them to the officers as they request. So that would ensure that no information is missed or recorded incorrect. So that covers Rapid SOS. And the last capital request on there would be the Motorola system upgrade agreement, which is an annual renewal.
Thank you, Director. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Director, just for my edification, is Rapid SOS in part needed because of the antiquated nature of our CAD, or would it always be an add-on no matter what our CAD system was, if that's an intelligible question?
Yes, I understand. It would always be an add-on, yeah, because it provides different capabilities than an actual CAD system, such as the AI. It actually more on the call handling side and less on the CAD side, and how it helps transcribe calls. So it's different from the CAD system.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you know the monetary contributions we all agreed to last time around? How this relates to that?
You want a comparison of what was
Just for like last year, for last fiscal year?
I don't have those on hand.
I'm without chatting with our finance director. We've been getting hit over the head on the city side. We're doing a flat budget, flat, super flats. And I don't know what kind of time frame we're out for this one. If it's something we can postpone to the next meeting, or if not, give myself and Chief Moya time to discuss it with our finance director and get their blessing. We're not agreeing to money that the city can. I don't know what is it. Write a check that I can't cash, so to speak. Is that doable or what kind of time pressure we on here?
Well, the JPA does state that we need to have something to submit by March 1st, and we could always have a special meeting. Right, Jonas, next week if necessary.
If necessary.
I'm going back to Chief Moya. We can schedule a meeting with Emily, Director Oster, early next week, and we can, or happy to reconvene. Does it have to be a formal meeting, or could we do like a roll call over email, or how does?
We can do a formal meeting.
Over Zoom?
And yeah, it would have to be noticed as a special meeting with 3 days. And we could just have that as the sole topic on the agenda.
I would also, just echo for what it's worth, and again, it's your Chief Joy and Chief Moya's comfort level. I don't understand anyone at this meeting to have the authority to bind their respective governing bodies. It's just a recommendation, both on the operating side as well as the capital side, that then has to go through the ordinary budget process at the town and city and at the county. And so again, if I vote in favor of this, I'm saying, hey, I think these are bona fide costs. Now, when I put on my county manager hat and I'm working with the Board of County Commissioners and all those requests come in, it would ultimately be the Board of County Commissioner that makes the final no decision. But again, that's the way I view it. But I just want to share that is that I certainly wouldn't view a vote on these items as you having committed the city to follow through on this. I get it. You've got your own process that this would need to go through, but be happy to have a special meeting after you discuss internally as well. But I just say that for what it's worth.
Is that the understanding, broadly speaking? This is the.
Yeah, that is correct. Manager Schaefer is correct that generally you take these budget back to your respective governing bodies, and then the governing bodies have a final approval of that portion of their budget. Okay. Contribute to the RECC. So you could have that conversation with the city governing body at that time, or you could do it prior to approving this budget and then come back to the RECC with any comments.
So with that being said, is there any concern, I guess, by individual board members in your representation in reference to some of the expenditures? Might be a better question.
Mr. Chair.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask Director Lujan, I know on our end, talking to Director Reeder, he's been having a hard time, very difficult time working with One Solutions. I was just kind of wondering with Director Lujan's input, if there is a maybe his opinion on One Solutions and their customer service or lack thereof.
Mr. Chair, Chief Jimenez, there were some difficulties and misunderstandings with Central Square when I first came in as interim director. Some of the things that were in the contract when it was Superior were not provided to RECC or our response agencies. And we did review that. They have been working to resolve that and those issues, such as the data migration from the AS400, which is actually happening right now, and was done at no cost because I did identify with Central Square that was already paid for when the original contract was signed. As far as the on-call customer service or reaching out to them, I rarely do that unless I'm asking for updates on renewals or quotes. That would be our CAT MSEG, Julie Lynch, who actually works with Central Square probably at least on a weekly basis and also works with them to update the GIS maps. I could ask her that question and provide feedback to you at a later time on how she feels their customer service is. But at this time, that's pretty much all I have to say about what they provide. There are other CAD vendors out there. There are options to look into other CAD systems or to upgrade to the other Central Square CAD systems as well. So we do need to look into that when we start working as a technology subcommittee to see what options are out there.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, if you would ask Ms. Lynch, I would appreciate that, because on our end, both IT people that we've had have really had a hard time, and even our lieutenant had a hard time contacting One Solution. So I guess my only request would maybe to kind of touch on that customer service angle on our end. And if you need any assistance from me to reach out to them or whatever, I'm happy to do so, but that would be my only recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director, also on that note, you know, there was rumors that One Solution was end of life coming up either this year or next year or sometime in the near future. And then it sounded like they got it back together. So I'm just a little concerned about One Solution, and they're kind of, you know, saying, okay, we're gonna be end of life, then all of a sudden now, no, we're gonna support it. It seems, and I'm assuming, maybe I'm jumping ahead of the curve here because I see item number 6B when they talk about technology, and I'm assuming has to do with the CAD also in RECC, and there's probably a lot more to come. But I do have a concern, just like the chief, whether One Solution is our CAD moving forward. But I think those are probably discussions that we're gonna have to have, you know, moving forward. But I think there is some concern there. So.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So in winter of 2022, I got a call from an account representative with Central Square, and they wanted to give me a warning that One Solution would not be supported in 2025, at the end of 2025. They were calling the individual dispatch centers and notifying them of that information. They did go through a transition of staff, and they did get feedback on One Solution from agencies. There's many agencies that use that system. And at that point, they decided to not shelve that operating system. They decided to move it also to a cloud-based system, which we could look into as well. And they're going to keep it alive indefinitely and updated indefinitely is what I've been told.
Okay. Manager.
Well, two questions, but relative to the capital, if you could just address a little bit more of the new CAD server. So is it a storage issue as well as a compatibility issue, or is the primary driver that it's a compatibility issue with our disaster recovery server?
So I did ask for some explanation. I thank you, Manager Schaefer, Mr. Chair. I did ask them for a better explanation. I'm happy to read this. Basically, uniform and hardware current challenge. Our environment consists of a mix of systems. So it's 2 Dell R440 hosts at RECC from July 2018. So they're nearly 7 years old. 1 Dell R740XD2 host at the disaster recovery site, which was bought in February 2023. Installed in February 2023. This variety creates compatibility challenges, making it difficult to move virtual machines from the disaster recovery host to the other two hosts because the hardware is not as new. The solution would be to standardize new hardware and would simplify the management of those servers, improve compatibility and support future expansion, and ensure all systems work seamlessly together.
And then just relative to the general age of equipment, if I understood correctly, server we'd be replacing is now coming up on 7 years old. So it's a little long in the tooth, right?
That is correct.
That's why I'm not on the technology.
And just for the record, Director, and I just want to, maybe you can answer. I think people assume that a new RECC meant everything came new, right? That we upgraded the servers, that we upgraded all the equipment, we upgraded the computers, the chairs, everything was done. So, you know, just for public, can you just comment on that? Because I think the assumption is we got a new building, everything's brand new, and now we're asking for newer computers and servers, and can you just explain that?
Sure. So upon my arrival as the interim director and then permanent director in August of 2022, some decisions had already been made as far as what was going to be purchased with the building, which included the dispatch chairs. The computers were updated, I believe, last year, but we've encountered that the computers need more memory and need to be faster than what they are now. We do experience very minor blips right now with our CAD system, maybe freezing, it'll say not responding for a minute, and that's usually due to a memory issue within the computer. So we've determined that we do need larger computers. We did purchase computers last year, but they were I guess, the county standard or the office standard for county offices. We discovered that we need something bigger and faster than that as well. The primary CAD server, at the time when we did purchase the disaster recovery server, was quite expensive, and I believe that we were just trying to create redundancy at that point without trying to purchase 2 new servers at the same time to try and be more fiscally responsible. But now is the time that we do need to upgrade that server, as it is 7 years old. At that point, it was only 4 years old. So those are the reasons that we did not purchase everything brand new. We did a relocation to this center, which was under the understanding that some items would not be out of the box brand new, but would be relocated to this facility.
Thank you for that explanation. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Director, as we look ahead to the CAD replacement, I mean, I guess I just want us to make sure we're planning proactively as to when that end state is, recognizing that your current CAD might still have a little bit of life left in it. I didn't hear that was a resounding endorsement of the product or how long it will be utilized. So if we, think about, for example, counties undergoing a major technological upgrade relative to a lot of our systems. We started by funding a consultant to help us define our requirements, select the system, what have you. Would you recommend a similar process? In which case, if we're thinking about a 2027, again, I don't know what that date is, but just working backwards, our timeline is, from start to implementation is almost 2 years. Should we be already starting that process now, or in this next fiscal year?
Yes, we should be looking into purchasing a new CAD. I believe a consultant would be crucial to do the research and help us determine what works best for us.
And on that note, is that a budget issue moving forward into next year? I mean, should we be budgeting for consultation services for RECC, or do we already have that? Or should that be incorporated in this budget moving forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am confident that we will be fine with one solution for the next fiscal year, but if the board would like to add that to this budget, I'm more than happy to do that and get started on working with a consultant. But I'm confident that we will make it through this upcoming fiscal year and wait to get the consultant. But either way.
Yeah, I'm just putting it out there because I think, to the manager's point, if we're going to be looking forward 3 or 4 years, and the consultation has to happen now, so we're ahead of the game. Yeah, one solution may be here for all of next year. We're looking forward.
Yes.
I'm just putting it out there. I don't know if the board has any other comments or recommendations.
Mr. Chair?
Chief?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, I believe Santa Fe PD is now going with Axon. I know we were looking at Axon as far as the RMS system goes. And now we're looking at Mark 43. So it's my understanding that that system, Peregrine, and I think they reached out to you, but that was the whole purpose of that they might be able to help with some consulting as far as integrating systems and what are compatible systems to integrate. So I just kind of want to put it out there and maybe just see if you could find a system or a CAD system that will integrate hopefully seamlessly with Axon and Mark 43. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but I think Peregrine or whatever system you guys end up going with, that could probably do a lot of the legwork for you. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Chief Jimenez. depending on the cost of that consultant or someone that would need to build a bridge between those, we would have to obviously not cause any procurement violations, so we would need to follow the proper procurement process to do that. So I'm not sure that we can just go with an individual vendor right away off the bat. We'd have to look into that. Axon does not have a CAD currently. Their primary focus is RMS and body cams, I believe. So they don't have a CAD system. And so we would need to find a CAD system that is interoperable with those software modules.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So just trying to move forward a little bit. Does anybody have any other questions or discussion in reference to the proposed budget? And Chief, are you comfortable moving forward? Is this something that we need to table for the next meeting?
Mr. Chair, I think if we're operating under the understanding this is a recommendation and not a promise, then I think we can move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. We have any other?
Mr. Chair.
Chief,
Yeah, question real quick. When I was on the phone with finance, when could like a July 1st, is that when we're shooting for this to get to the county? Manager Schaefer, is that what we're shooting for?
Thank you. Yeah, we would be looking for, approval as part of the city's ordinary budget process, and relative to the cash delivery, I think that would really depend upon when we make the purchase, would be when we would be actually invoicing for that expense. So if the question is, are we expecting a check on July 1? The answer is no. We would be looking that it was in the budget so that we could then move forward with the purchase, and we would invoice thereafter once the server and the goods and services were received.
Okay, no, that makes me and Chief Joy a little easier. So we're okay after talking to them that we could vote on it today.
okay. With that being said, do I have a motion for approval of the recommended RECC FY26 budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended budget.
I'll second it, sir.
Yes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes for the approval of the recommended budget and contributions for FY26. Moving on to number 6, presentations. A, presentation by Federal Engineering on RECC Evaluation Phase 2, Staffing Study and Operations Review. Director, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Mr. Eric Perry from Federal Engineering to present. Mr. Perry, would you like to share your screen, or did you want me to share the PowerPoint for the PDF? And Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I think you need to stop sharing so that I can share.
Okay.
Let me know if you guys see this.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, well, I'm not the only guy presenting here. My boss, Scott Strom, is on the line. So I'm going to yield to him to kind of open things up and get the ball rolling here.
Thanks, Eric. I prefer colleague rather than boss. Believe me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Eric and I appreciate this opportunity to provide a briefing of what's really been a very interesting project and very fulfilling project for our team here at FE. Just to give you a little bit of a background here, Eric, if you could go ahead and go to the next slide. Just to give you a little bit of a background, kind of where we started and where we've culminated this project so far. Back in early part of 2023, we entered into a contract with the RECC to provide some overarching public safety consulting, and broke the project down essentially into 3 phases. The first phase, the current conditions analysis, we completed that in October of 2023. That really enabled us to come in and meet with the various management level and individuals and agencies at the RECC, and in looking at and assessing the overall communication center and providing basically a benchmark, if you will, of where things stood at that time. And then coincidentally, as we went through the project then in 2024, we initiated and completed phases 2 and 3 of the project. Phase 2 being the staffing study and overall operations review, and phase 3 being a more deeper dive into the technical aspects and technical components of the communication center. And today, what I want to do is, or Eric and I, what we want to do is just provide the board a high-level briefing of some of the key findings and associated recommendations that we've brought to the table for both phases 2 and 3. We'll cover both of those today. We'll do them at a high level here. We'll, like I said, catch some of the high level aspects of it, and we'll go from there. The first item that or first part of it that I'll have Eric go through will be the phase 2, which was the staffing study and operations review. We looked at everything from an operations perspective, and I'll have Eric go through each one of these areas and provide kind of an overview of our recommendations. And just keep in mind too, again, this is a briefing, so it's high level, although we have a lot of slides. We're just gonna try to go through it at a very high level. Again, the board, I believe, has copies of the original reports, which again go much more depth of coverage and greater detail in individual key findings and recommendations. And you could certainly refer back to that in your leisure as we go through this. Eric?
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we got a bit of ground to cover here, but before I start, I just want to say what a great experience it was for myself and some of my other team members to come out there. Roberto is awesome and was nothing but a breath of fresh air for us to work with. I think it would be an understatement to say that Roberto needs a trophy or something to be recognized for the improvements he's made there and the leadership he's provided and the gyrations he's gone through to improve staffing, improve the relationship with the folks in the center, and improve the morale of a place that wasn't doing that well when he arrived, when he got involved in the leadership team there. So Roberto, you can stand up and take a bow as I go through this.
Thank you.
So, plus you're a great guy. I mean, you're an awesome guy. Anyway, and every time we've been out there, he's we went out to Edgewood and did the tour. So thank you. We're not always welcome when we stumble in the door at these places. So again, thanks Roberto for being such a great host when we're there and for bending over backwards to give us everything we needed for this study. So we're going to just take this in bite-sized pieces. Like Scott said, this is a high overview. I'm not going to be reading these slides to you, but I think you can get an idea of when we come into a center, we naturally want to look at national standards, see what's out there, and see whether you folks in everything you're doing are in compliance with any of the standards that are out there. The other thing is that we looked at, Scott alluded to the staffing study we did, and I'm going to get into that a little later. It's not all bad news, but one of the things that we realized with the discussions with Roberto is that you guys needed another position in there. And so what we identified, or we're calling it, is a dispatch operations assistant. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on in the presentation, but this person would be kind of like a coordinator. I'm going to describe kind of the duties that we are suggesting that this person do. This would be like an RECC IT coordinator, also looking after some of the administrative tasks, such as monitoring, reviewing calls and complaints, and just an overseer of the general operation. So that's that position. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. Then we did a call processing assessment. We looked at all the processing times, the dispatch times, how calls are being handled, both in the police, fire, and medical environments. We do have some suggestions for improving those processes. Again, this is all in detail in our report, so I'm just going to be touching on this at a high level. So, and I tend to rattle on, so if anybody got any question about it, anything I say, or want to ask a question about anything specific on any of these PowerPoint slides, if someone could just let me know. Let me see here. So one of the interesting things about what we do is the NFPA has a standard for fire and EMS dispatch. As such, there's no standard for law enforcement, but that's a whole other story. But one of the things that the NFPA, as a recommended standard setting body, says that we want to be able to dispatch fire EMS calls within 60 seconds, 90% of the time. So if you can see the kind of the column in the middle there are the call volumes for various months, then over on the right-hand side, you see the percentage of those calls that were dispatched in 60 seconds or less. So we go from a low, by the looks of it, in August of 2023, from 71.5% of the calls that were dispatched within the criteria for the NFPA to a high just down below that in October 2023 of 86.3%. So those aren't that bad, but we do want to point out that those should be higher, and that we want to strive always to be in compliance with any of the recommended best practices that are out there. And so that's what this slide is all about here. Any questions on that? Okay, so then we look at the 911 call answering performance. So we've shifted gears from dispatch to call answer. And again, we looked at the data, the information that was able to be provided. And I know we went through some difficulty in trying to get reliable data for a variety of reasons. But the long and short of it is your 911 answering performance is directly proportional to your staffing. So what we would notice is that because of the chronic staffing shortage, which is a normal thing that happens in virtually every PSAP, is call volumes increase, communities grow, people have more, there's a proliferation of cell phones and other ways to contacting 911. So what has happened historically is the call volumes have increased, and PSAP staffing traditionally has not been able to keep pace with that. So without getting into the weeds, we have a whole other section on the staffing analysis that I'm going to get to. So we got some recommendations here. Fire and EMS dispatching performance could be improved by using such things as a structured protocol. We're going to talk about the use of structured protocol. You have that system in your center called ProQA, which is an EMD protocol system. And we're going to be suggesting here a little later on that you look at adopting protocol system for the fire as well as law enforcement. The second bullet down there, we identified a clock synchronization problem, that none of your equipment, your CAD system, your telephone system, and everything else in there needed to be synchronized. That's kind of a standard thing. That's a requirement in most PSAPs. And so that has been resolved. So this whole report here we're giving you is this kind of a snapshot of what things were like last summer. So my conversations with Roberto is that some of these things have been resolved or well on their way to being resolved, and that whole CAD discussion kind of dovetails into this report. And then, of course, the last bullet there, we always talk about retraining some of your folks with regard to being a little more proficient with the dispatch piece of this. Roberto, do you have any comment on this slide here?
Thank you, Mr. Perry. So yes, the net clock was replaced, and that means that all the systems are now synchronized in time, and that was what we like about a year ago or a little less than a year ago, but everything is synchronized now. And we do provide refresher training now for the staff that, again, Kat and Julie Lynch has compiled with my assistants, where we do explain the importance of rapid dispatching and each county and city fire dispatch protocols. So they are getting that refresher training now. We have seen an improvement in performance.
Yeah, and you know, your staff there should be commended on what they've been through and kind of how they've stuck together and persevered through all kinds of issues. And so I just want to say, when we were there, we did sit-alongs, I'll call it that, with listening in the PSAP or in the RECC, listening to calls being taken, double plugging, and we saw nothing but professionalism and the behaviors that certainly pointed them doing the best they can, given all the limitations of the job and everything else. So hats off to them as well. Okay, recruitment and hiring. Again, we had a long, hard look at this. You want to make sure that you're doing your best to hire the right people, and you want to make sure that you don't have a hiring process in place that's taking too long. And you do have some things that are necessary for hiring, such as background checks and everything else. And we did notice that there was an increase in our hourly wages. And so that, although very few people do this for the money, that certainly helps when you have a nice raise. So, but your recruitment and training program is eight months long, and that's not untypical of a typical, how long hiring processes for these types of positions take. So we have just a few bulleted recommendations here, in that you continue to do, whatever needs to be done to improve retention, mentoring, training. There's organizations such as APCO NINA that provide all kinds of online training or in-person training. And so there's, again, these are just some of very high level ideas here that we would recommend to, help keep the good people. Roberto, that bottom bullet there, explore artificial intelligence. I don't think we had a chance to talk to you about that, but you guys looking at that by any chance?
Yes, I did talk about Rapid SOS Unite, which involves AI alarm processing. So we are looking into it.
Okay. Yeah, the Rapid SOS is a good thing. If you guys can keep going on that, it does some amazing things, and it has been updated and modified to do even more amazing things. So, and you got into that earlier in the in your meeting there. So, okay, quality assurance. Quality assurance is an essential part of what happens in any kind of emergency communication center. And what you guys do there, you outsource your medical to Party Dispatch, which is a third party quality assurance vendor, I guess you'd call them. And so your non-medical calls and your law enforcement calls, though, are don't fall into the same kind of discretion, or, the QPR does a fairly accurate quality assurance because it is based upon a structured protocol system. And so I kind of alluded to this a little earlier. Your non-medical calls, which would be your fire calls or your law enforcement calls, there's no structured protocols in place for that. So what that means is it becomes a little trickier to do quality assurance on those types of calls. Because lacking a structured protocol, then your call takers and dispatchers have more latitude to do things differently. So again, quality assurance is something that's a very important part of what a functional communication center does. And so we would suggest that you have a long, hard look. That's more money, by the way, to adopt your fire, if you decide to go out and procure your fire and police medical or protocol systems. Any questions on that? We're even though federal engineering is vendor agnostic, we believe that the priority dispatch protocols are the best out there. So and that's what you use for your medical right now.
And Mr. Perry?
Yes,
I
call
just
me
wanted
Eric.
to note-
Call
Yeah,
me
okay.
Eric.
I just wanted to note that we are requesting from the FAA an upgraded logging recorder system, which does include a QA/QI form for law enforcement calls. It can be tailored to any of our needs. So we will be starting to utilize that hopefully next fiscal year.
Well, that's awesome. Good job. Okay, moving right along here. Let me see. So there again, I already talked to this, but there's our recommendation. QA process for non-medical calls and law enforcement. Moving along now, training program. You have a good training program in place that you stick to it and continue with your current methodologies. In other words, your training program is pretty darn good, and we didn't have any significant suggestions to improve that. Call flow policy and procedure. Again, kind of dovetailing back and forth on some of the things covered a little earlier, but there's our NFPA standard. Talked about this already, the 60-second, 90% of the time. We did have some issues with your data, but again, I showed you a slide a little earlier on the presentation. And so basically this is a recap of what I said a little earlier, this one slide. So we've got some recommendations. And again, I think, Roberto, you got some of these things that are well underway, the update of the SOPs. What we discovered was for a variety of reasons, the SOPs hadn't been updated for some time. So we needed to have those resurrected and brought up to date. Again, we got the recommendation for structured protocol. And that's pretty much it for this slide. All right, staffing assessment. So I don't think it's any secret there that we advocate keeping your good people. Compensation looks like it was an issue when we were out there last. There's a lot of, I would call it poaching of personnel sometimes, where other centers pay more and can entice your employees to go somewhere else for better pay or whatever. So, but you guys got that on the radar. So, and your on-call overtime, that's always an issue where people have to come back and work overtime because of staffing shortages. We have a bullet there that says current staffing levels, you have 8 on duty. You should have 8 on duty, but you're often operating with 7 or less. Again, this was the snapshot from last summer. So Berto, I don't know what progress you've made. If this is still an issue, perhaps you can comment on that.
So we are operating between 6 and 8, depending on the shift, but it's definitely improved, and our retention and staffing levels have improved. So I'm going to go into that later in my report.
Okay. So the very bottom there, when we did our staffing analysis, we have a fairly robust methodology for doing our staffing calculations. It's something that is a combination of the RECC theory and the the staffing processes that has been adopted by NENA, the National Emergency Numbers Association. So we used kind of a combination of that to come up with the numbers. And the bottom line is we identified that you need to have at least an additional 20 telecommunicators, an additional 20 positions, which again is a bit of a sticker shock thing here. But along with our recommendation for additional 20, we do have kind of a plan moving forward, and that's called the 3-tier approach. So Roberto, if you don't mind, if I can go into this, and if you have any comment, don't hesitate to stop me or correct me. But so here's what current and future recommendations. So the bottom line is you have about 46 people involved in that RECC operation. And if you look at the right-hand side, when you do 35 plus 20, it becomes 55. Plus we have that yellow highlighted position there, which is the new operations coordinator position. So then what we decided is that actually with the coaching from Roberto and a few others, we decided that this would be a reasonable kind of goal, kind of to just stagger this over a period of time. But we have 3 tiers, and I'm going to talk about those right now. So we're kind of at the minimum staffing tier, which it would be the first level of the steps towards staffing up. And at this minimum staffing tier, you're going to be doing basic services, hopefully lessening your dependency on overtime, keeping a professional, healthy work environment. As you add more people, then the machine operates more efficiently, and things just start going a little bit better. Then we have, and I'm going to put up a graphic here in a minute that's going to show this in a more kind of understandable way. The second tier would be what we call the operational staffing tier, which would be the second level to target. Like again, this would be a gradually adding more people to the staff over over a stretched period of time. And again, as you staff up, then you're going to be able to do other things, lessen your dependence on overtime, and then get more into the nuts and bolts of the quality assurance and improving your training program. So and then the level 3 would be you've hit your maximum. You're going to be staffed to where exactly you need to be. That would be the final level. And you would be able to, at this level, continue to be able to expand on other services that you offer, do things better, and be really, this is your ultimate goal here. So let me just go over here, and then you can see this would be kind of a graphic presentation or representation of where you are as of October, where you were as of October 24, 2024, and then the 3 tiers. Gradually stepping up and gradually increasing your staff. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a little cut off on my screen, but the bottom line totals are at the bottom of the screen there, where you're at, say you're at 34 now, your minimum would be up to 47. Operational would be the addition of another 10, and optimal would be, again, hitting that magic number of 20. So I'll stop here. Any questions or concerns with any of this? And Roberto, please jump in there and coach me if we need to do any more kind of explanation of this.
Mr. Chair, thank you. This is Greg Schaefer speaking. Candidly, from the operational to the optimal, both in the PowerPoint as well as in the presentation, it wasn't clear to me where that number was coming from and exactly what the addition of 10 telecommunicators would accomplish in a tangible and concrete way. And so if you could explain a bit more, that jump of 10 telecommunicators in terms of what they would be doing, given the staffing levels we strive for, which, I would have a separate question about, which is, maybe using, part-time telecommunicators to meet the busiest times of the day, which again, I think the data shows pretty clearly when we're having a very high call volume, but how we might structure things a little bit differently. But in any event, focusing on the operational to the optimal and what the 10 additional telecommunicators would be allowing us to achieve would be really beneficial, even recognizing that that's, several years out in terms of a realistic goal to achieve. Nonetheless, I think it would be useful for the board to understand in greater detail exactly what those 10 additional positions would accomplish.
Roberto, do you want to comment on that, or do you want me to start?
Well, as the full report states that we do have challenges answering 911 calls during peak hours. So the telecommunicators that would be added would be serving as call takers and relief, so that the dispatchers would be able to get lunches and appropriate breaks during their shifts. So that's what they would serve as to satisfy the call volume and answer the calls within the national standard. 55 does seem like a lot to me as well. That is federal engineering's recommendation, and I could see how that would make things the best for the staff and the environment, because they would be able to take the breaks, like I said, that they need, and allow for coverage without having to call in on-call personnel when someone needs a day off. So I think that's pretty much where those numbers come from. And Eric did use a formula that is recognized by both NENA and APCO for staffing needs. I don't know if you can explain the Irvine C a little bit clearer.
So if I could then, and again, to put it in context, because this is a summary, I think I've expressed my views on 12-hour shifts before. Is that what this would allow us to get to, which would be a different staffing model altogether, where we're now looking at 8-hour shifts with potentially surge capacity? We're not just stacking people up on top of 12-hour shifts. Is that at a general level what that allows us to get?
Absolutely, yes. We would be able to augment the staffing to peak hour staffing and provide a combination of 8s, 10s, and 12s options. Is that so? Yes, that's what that would provide.
I'm
The
good.
other thing,
I just wanted to make sure that we were clear in terms of how we're getting there, is that we're not just putting down 10, 12 people on the same shift, but this is a fundamental readdressing of how we go about staffing our emergency services. We would be able to, again, do things more creatively and allow hours that, frankly, are more conducive to folks who want to do something outside of work. Okay.
And Director, if I can just ask a question also, and kind of on the same lines. So were there other, I guess, regional communication centers that were looked at? How do we know that this number of people is, is this based on calls taken? How many calls are coming into our RECC that we feel like 10 is gonna answer that need? Are these based on like standards of amount of calls received and dispatched for these numbers? Was that taken into consideration, or? And Mr. Perry, maybe you can answer that question.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so there's a whole bundle of things here that are out on the table now. First of all, I'll say that of all the shift methodologies or systems out there, that your 12-hour shift makes the most efficient use of your people. And if you were to, and when we do this all the time, we analyze other shift combinations and permutations. Your 10-hour shift is your least efficient, followed by the next level is 8 hours, but your 12-hour shift is the most efficient. The other thing that this would allow you guys to do would be to set up, designated call takers. So right now it's kind of a mix and match. Sometimes some positions do call answer, but you also have, when things get busy, you, under your present configuration anyway, you have dispatchers that are picking up the phone and answering 911 calls, which makes them less focused on their dispatch, keeping track of your online, your on the road resources and that kind of thing. So it allows you to shift your model more to, and as your center has grown, your call volume has grown and your staffing hasn't grown. So as a community grows and the emergency communication center grows, you need to start carving up how you're doing your call answer and how you're doing your dispatch. So this would allow you to move more towards that model where you would have permanently dedicated call takers to do that. We look at everything. Now, getting back to the last question, is we do a request for information, and I'm sure that without getting into the weeds in it on this presentation, but we'd be happy to do that, is that we look at everything. We look at your call answer times, your call volumes. We look at trending, how over a 5-year period, how your call volume has trended, whether it's going up or going down or staying the same. We look at your attrition, your turnover, whether or not you have a high turnover. That is all, and we look at the available hours for each employee. We look at how much leave they take, whether there's FMLA leave involved or special leave, military leave. There's a whole bundle of things that we look at that fit into this, what I call the NINA staffing model process to get our calculations. And so we plug all this information into a self-calculating spreadsheet, and then we look at how much the shifts are, how many consoles you guys have, how many dispatchers you have. It's a fairly complex process, but and it's one that we use it all the time. We use it everywhere when we go into a PSAP or emergency communication centers to do their staffing analysis. Like I said, I'd be only too happy to do a deeper dive on this if you guys like.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. And that was leads me to the other question, and maybe I just don't know exactly the specifics, but do you have to be a certified dispatcher to take a call? So, or can that be separated where we have call takers and then dispatchers?
So the Department of Public Safety requires the employee to receive their public safety basic telecommunicator certification within 1 year of employment. So that's where we run into issues with Manager Schieffer mentioning the temporary employees. There was a temp service that was in here. However, those people had been around for longer than a year and never gone to the academy or had already let their certification lapse and returned as temp employees. So we had to end that. So that's the difficulty with having part-time or temporary employees, is that regardless of whether they're part-time, full-time, they all must attend the law enforcement academy within 1 year of their date of hire.
So, but let me ask a question. So that's to be a dispatcher. So
It's to work within the 911 center.
period. So it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Unless you're an administrator or a director, if you're on the floor answering calls or working with response agencies, whether it's just answering phones or radio, you have to become
Okay, that was my question, because I thought maybe there could be a job description of just call takers that don't necessarily need to be dispatch certified.
Right, no, unfortunately not.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, Director, I wasn't suggesting different certifications. I appreciate the clarification. I was more talking about a range of work options that would attract a larger labor pool and potentially allow them to continue to work in dispatch, given changes in their life that, make 12-hour shifts, not compatible with being a parent. That's what I was getting at. Not the certification, more so quality of life. And I understand about the efficient use of resources, but again, I think that's a tough ask for people to work 12 hours on a regular basis.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you. And I just think the issue is that it's already hard enough for them to work 12 hours and then work part-time. They would still need to attend the academy for 3 weeks. So I think that's complicated for some people if they stayed for longer than a year.
Mr. Chair, is there like a staffing tipping point to where they can transition to 8-hour shifts? Like, I don't know in relation to where we are now and how many more would need to be added. I think it's a neat idea that 8 hours as opposed to 12.
Well, that's a really good question. I'd have to go back and look at and rerun some of the numbers. I think we did all our calculations based on an 8-hour shift schedule. Sometimes we would offer what your staffing numbers would look like under a 10-hour shift system or a 12-hour shift system, but these numbers were run for 8-hour shift system.
Okay, so these are for that, I think that was Chief Joy's
That was
question,
my
is that this would allow us to get to an 8-hour shift, these numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you
Okay.
decided down the road that you were going to go to a 12-hour shift, then you numbers would change a bit. Okay, because the 12-hour shifts are more efficient in terms of your employee usage.
So how far are we from that? Goalpost to be able to do that for you?
To be able to do 8-hour shifts. So if we wanted 8 per shift, and then we need 2 on call on their days off as well. Let's see. We could try it around 40, 42 full-time employees. We can start evaluating and testing it. Right now we're at, that would be 42 dispatchers. So yeah, I mean, we don't have that capacity right now.
And then the other comment I just don't want to lose sight of, but this whole notion of certification. Right now, if you're doing emergency medical dispatch, then the folks that are doing call taking need to have an EMD certification for call taking. And if you were to move to, so that would be one mandatory certification for call takers who would be taking a medical call, for example. If you adopt the other 2 protocol systems, which would be the fire, the police, law enforcement, then there's certifications that go with each one of those. So if you adopted all the 3 protocol systems, then all your folks would have to be certified in those 3 protocol systems, which are fundamentally call taking, the call taking piece of the call. Okay, any other questions? Okay, nothing heard. I'm going to move on here. We've probably covered most of the meat of the presentation, but there's some other stuff here, financial. We did a very high level financial analysis, and we just want to say that your budget is eating about 60, your budget is 65% staffing, and there are a potential for other funding sources. And this is kind of a moving target here, the grant opportunities, because grants do come up, federal grants come up, and you do have some grant opportunities through your state 911 office. But there are some other options there. And again, it's just kind of, here they are. You can, I know that probably Roberto doesn't have a whole lot of time to chase down grants, but maybe that new position that we have identified could be tasked with doing that. Moving along, current conditions, kind of our key findings. This would be focusing now into phase 3, which would be the technical aspect. And here is the laundry list of things that we looked at. So we're going to jump right into these again. I have one eye on the clock here. I see we have a bit of a time crunch. So again, just bear with me if you have any specific questions on any of these items here. But you can see we didn't have any recommendations regarding your call handling solution. You have the Vesta system. There is a statewide project that we're involved in which the migration to next generation system is well underway. We do know that the Vesta software has had some problems, and that the migration to the latest patch or the latest version of that Vesta software is very complex and it's very time consuming. I'm talking about when people stumble in the door to do the actual upgrade. There's going to be technicians on site. It takes a while. It's complicated. And so we just wanted to make sure that you guys were well aware of that and that you have your respective IT resources that are involved in that upgrade. It's complicated. Oops, wrong way. Your CAD system. a lot of discussion on CAD. I don't know how much time you want me to talk about it, but this is what we found when we were there. We kind of came away looking at the current central score CAD system that we saw there. It looked like you guys were about to outgrow it. That system you have in place is for more of a medium-sized PSAP, and you guys were on the verge of maximizing out that current CAD system. Again, the second bullet there, the new position would be tasked with overseeing that whole aspect of any kind of IT thing going on with regard to CAD. We had some interaction with some of your IT folks there. And again, this is where the rest of these recommendations came out from. So structured maintenance notification system, apparently there were situations where the system was taken down for maintenance and not enough people knew about it. So just, improving the lines of communication, basically. And then the second from the last bullet there, RCC worked with Vesta to create an API style interface. There was some issues with data integration and data exchange that I think you sort of touched on, Roberto, there earlier on. And we also suggest that you guys look at, and perhaps you've done this already, Roberto, but there is an upgrade for an RMS system, and you can see it there. The Public Safety Suite Pro RMS product. Any comment on that, Roberto?
No, thank you.
Okay. Whoops. And then there were some issues with the standardization of CAD data entry. Would be involved like the coding types of coding the various types of incidents. There seemed to be some variation and lack of standardization on that. So we've touched on looking at that. And some of this other stuff we've already talked about here. And the bottom bullet there, an uptime clause to the current contract that you have with your CAD provider.
Eric?
Yeah.
Real quick, for the CAD entry standardization, we have actually been having regular meetings with our response agencies, administrators and sergeants, lieutenants, captains and on up. We are actually going to reduce the number of nature codes we have in the CAD system based on their recommendations, which will help us to standardize, because there are, over the years, nature codes were added, but they had almost the same meaning as the other nature code that already existed. So we are working on cleaning that up right now.
All right, and if I might add too, that the migration or the adoption of the fire, the police protocols will further allow you to standardize your CAD entry and hopefully reduce the number of CAD codes and incident codes that you're currently in the process of reducing. So you're on the right track, you guys. Mobile data terminals. Just the only thing we had there with coordination with regard to their software updates. Location mapping services. Again, we had a bunch of recommendations here. We had 4, and it's important to note that third one, I understand, Roberto, that your integration with AVL has been completed, which is really important. Okay, and the other thing at the bottom there, and response and recommendation features, that would be like the closest unit for law enforcement. That was another thing that we were recommending you guys adopt. RMS, I think you had a discussion on that already, but here's what we found and here's what we recommended. A cross-agency all-inclusive RMS system. And again, you had an issue with managing the entry of warrants into the NCIC system. You had like a backlog, a massive backlog, but again, Roberto indicated that that has been resolved or is in the process of being resolved, and the system's being updated. Is that correct, Roberto?
Yeah, just to briefly explain, municipal court did want their warrants entered into NCIC, but we worked with them. They determined that most of their warrants did not meet the criteria for entry. They've quashed and reissued those warrants, and so as of As of late December of 2024, we began entering their warrants into NCIC, and it's no longer an issue.
Good. Okay, well, we're almost done here. Just a couple more things. Logging recorder. I understand that you were in the process of moving forward with the procurement. So all we're saying is that make sure it's next generation or i3 compliant. And again, that when you do that Vesta upgrade, that you have your IT resources there watching how they do it and make sure that everything is working properly when it comes to the interface to the logging recorder. Your EZNet status, state's working on that. And, you know, I was going to check to see if you guys have been moved over to the EZNet, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But we're kind of involved from a distance overseeing that project, FE is. And so I don't know if you guys have been switched over yet. Do you know, Roberto, by any chance?
Testing begins in April, and we are phase 2 of the project, which I believe is like October, September timeframe for RECC to switch over to EZNet.
Okay, that's going to be a giant leap forward for you guys and for the state and all your other PSAPs. And that'll bring you into the present. It's a standardized system now that's being rolled out nationwide. Next generation 911, it can do all kinds of, it's supposed to be able to do all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, that's pretty much it for our presentation. Again, I want to just say that we had great opportunities to come out and visit there, and Roberto was a great host, and we had nothing but positive interactions with everybody that we interviewed and sat down with. So that's pretty much it for my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Do you have any,
Right.
do you have any questions or comments in reference to the presentation, manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, the only comment I have to say from at least the county's perspective relative to this next budget cycle, you know, focuses on getting to the first stage of the staffing, the minimum, i.e. to fill the positions we have, and then we'll look forward in future fiscal years to try and actually build out the staff. But obviously we have vacancies and retention that are going to be primary goal this next budget cycle. So I just wanted to underscore from the county's perspective that we're cognizant of the report's recommendations, and to put it in context of the budget, you know, our focus will be making sure we have adequate resources to try and fill those 12 vacant positions. Thank you.
Thank you, manager. Any other questions or comments? No? Well, thank you, Mr. Perry and Federal Engineering for the presentation. And, you know, we'll recommend that all the board members go back and review the full packet if they have any other questions, and maybe reach out to the director if there's anything that goes unanswered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to number 7, matters from the RECC director on A, public safety report.
Thank you. Not sure it's shared with Rachel. 7. Okay. So for the public safety report for December 2024, the total telephone calls handled for that month was 30,451. Total telephone calls received via 911, 7,470. 4 calls received via 98. Santa Fe County calls dispatched, 7,422. City of Santa Fe calls dispatched, 8,518. And Town of Edgewood calls, 486. I'm happy to say that for that month, we answered 90% of our 911 calls within 0 to 15 seconds. So we did meet the NENA national standard that Eric Perry referred to. For January of 2025, we handled 29,510 telephone calls. 6,941 of those calls were via 911. 3 of those calls were via 98. Santa Fe County calls dispatch 7,101. City of Santa Fe calls dispatch 8,693, and Town of Edgewood calls 568. And again, I'm happy to say for January, we did meet 90% again for of our call 911 calls out answered within 0 to 15 seconds. And that concludes the public safety report for the last 2 weeks.
Thank you, Director. And, I'll just ask this question, based on the presentation by Mr. Perry, there was a lot of months there that the standard wasn't met. Have you done anything different?
So the research and the data that I've been pulling shows that we failed to meet that standard between May and August of each year. So the rest of the year we are in compliance. It's during the peak hours of the summer months that we are not meeting that standard. So it's the increase in call volume with more people out, more tourists, more visitors to the communities that increases and makes it difficult for us to meet that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to 7B, staffing report.
RECC's current vacancy rate is 30.4%. We've hired 3 ECS basics this month, Alyssa Duran, Sol Gonzalez, and Brianna Hernandez. That will drop our vacancy rate down to 23.9% when they start this Saturday. They will then actually have their first day at RECC on Thursday. Prior to that, they'll be going through county orientation and HR rules. On the first day, they will be fingerprinted and prepare applications to attend the EPS Telecommunicator Basic Academy. They will then begin their in-room or in-house classroom training, basically our local academy that we provide. They'll spend several weeks in training, which includes a week of NCIC, at least 2 weeks of CAD operations, customer service, call answering, response agency specific procedures, and surrounding jurisdictional geography. The new hires will also be scheduled for ride-alongs with our various response agencies. And the objective, of course, is to have highly trained professional call takers with the goal of being able to immediately function on the dispatch floor after completing the in-house training, function as call takers. We attended a job fair at the Mexico State Fairgrounds last month. However, very few people showed up. So we will continue to look for recruitment opportunities and make ourselves more visible to the public and let them know that we are hiring. We are actively recruiting for the positions of Emergency Communications Specialist 2, ECS 3, and Team Leader. And just to let you know, the ECS 2 pay starts at $27.34. The ECS 3 pay starts at $30.34, and the Team Leader position starts at $34.84 per hour, which are currently competitive, if not higher rates than dispatch centers in surrounding communities. So we have made a great effort with the cost of living adjustments and other increases to ensure that we're competitive right now. And that's all I have for my staff.
Thank you. Do you have any questions in reference to the staffing report?
Mr. Chair.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, thank you for the report. And as always, your staff is doing a great job with what they have. I was wondering, do telecommunicators receive the hiring grant that like law enforcement does? I know we've done a couple of grants in my short time here, and there always seems to be a telecommunicator clause on their list or even civilian staff. So I was wondering if you guys had that opportunity or if you know.
Yes, we did. The undersheriff, I reached out to him when the applications for the Law Enforcement Protection Fund were up for application. He did put us in there, so we did get a portion of those funds. I'm not sure. I have to check with our account services director to find out how they have been utilized, but we were mentioned in his application as part of the staff that would be eligible to receive those funds. We are also, from what I understand, each individual department that we dispatch for that is eligible for the Law Enforcement Retention Fund can list us as part of their staff, and we would be able to receive those funds from each department if granted as they see fit. So, Mr. Chair and Chief Jimenez, if you do apply for it next year, I'm under the understanding that you can list RECC as part of your staff.
That's good to know. Thank you, because I didn't know that. So what I was going to say is maybe I know we've been able to give them a bonus for the retention for law enforcement. Maybe that's something that you guys could look at, you know, for people that you hire on, bonuses or whatnot. But yeah, we'll definitely look at that on our end too.
Thank you,
Mr.
and Chief Joy as well. Chief Joy, you could also list us as part of your staff on that, is what I was advised.
And then Director, I know there's a bill moving forward. There's several retention funds that are being made available to law enforcement, fire, I think in corrections, but I think there's a bill moving forward that is trying to add telecommunicators for the longevity and phased in years of service retention fund. I don't know where that stands at the legislature, but I know that is moving forward.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think it's still at the committee level right now.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments in reference to the staffing report or public safety report? If there isn't any, we'll move on to item C, 7C, status on consultant regarding the procedure sub.
Yes, so in the, I think, Mr. Chair, in the previous meeting, we did discuss a procedure subcommittee, at which point the vote was to have me look for quotes. I did reach out to our account services director who had guided me that I did need to do an RFQ to not create a procurement violation. So we did reach out to various vendors for an RFQ, and we've only received one quote. So we're still waiting for further. As soon as I get those other quotes, I will provide them next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions or comments in reference to the consult? No. Okay, 7D, nomination of dispatcher of the year at IAED Navigator Conference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give some background on IAED, that's the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. We utilize their protocol for the medical calls that we take. They have a conference every year called Navigator in various locations. They recognize a dispatcher of the year for any agency that submits a nomination. This year, with the assistance from Emergency Management Specialist Ignacio Dominguez, we are nominating our RECC team leader, Ashley Woods, for dispatcher of the year. The nomination was submitted again by Ignacio with the memorandums of recognition by Santa Fe County EM, Santa Fe Police Department, Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department, Santa Fe County Fire Department, City of Santa Fe Fire Department, and of course RECC. And just to highlight the incident that I highlighted for her nomination, it was in reference to an elderly hiker in the Galisteo Basin, in which Ms. Woods utilized resources such as Rapid SOS to identify the caller's location. She gathered directions from the caller and accurately relayed this information to the county battalion chief and state search and rescue team, ensuring the patient was located in a timely manner. The patient actually called me directly on a Sunday to talk to me and make sure that I provided appropriate recognition for Ms. Woods. And I did let her know that we had nominated her for dispatcher of the year. The other memos from the other agencies highlight other scenarios that she's helped them with. She is just an outstanding employee. She has helped to train multiple new hires over the past year. Nothing but positive feedback from the response agencies about her services and professionalism, and I feel it's appropriate to recognize her.
Thank you, Director, and I'd just like to congratulate Ms. Woods on her nomination. Hopefully that goes far at the conference. Does anybody have any other comments or?
Mr. Chair, Director, I would also like to congratulate Ms. Wood on her nomination. Many times as working as up in the north, when we heard her voice on the radio, we knew that we were taken care of. And she's an incredible employee, a really valuable team member to not only your team, but to every single agencies. And I'm excited about the nomination. So thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I think that concludes items for matters from the RECC director. We'll move on to number 8, matters from the board.
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Director Lujan for going to our public safety committee last night. Last night, all days working together. Everything's the blur for me now. Sorry, but no, I appreciate that. It was good to see him there. let our board see our committee, see the update for, see how hard these guys are working over here on the side of the line, so to speak.
I want to echo that as far as being on the public safety committee was a wealth of knowledge. And I think that the other board members that sat there and listened to the director's well-prepared report, even though he wasn't on the agenda, he was well prepared and provided a great insight to the board as to what's taking place, not only police and fire, he gave us a whole other dynamic of it. In addition to that, I just want to acknowledge Glenda Ortiz because she's phenomenal. All the entities that I work with statewide and gathering information and requests when it comes to IFRAs, she's always on task. She's always well versed in providing me the information I need in a timely basis. So please, let her know how much I appreciate her. And thank you.
Okay, any other matters from the board? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and move to number 9, concluding business. So I'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance and your participation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Help us with that escort. I know he was getting his ass kicked, which we feeling like that's.
Oh, yeah.